So you've decided to put your pet's diet into your own hands, but how do you do it right? Nutritional deficiencies are common in unbalanced homemade diets, and if fed long-term, this can result in many issues involving the skin, coat, immune system, organ function, and even overall behavior. I don't want to see someone feed an unbalanced diet without realizing, so here's a raw feeding checklist for new raw feeders that may just need a little help getting started. Number 1, muscle meat. Muscle meats are the bulk of a raw meal, making up 50 to 80% of it. When I first started feeding raw, it was for my ferret guts. And one of the first things that I learned was that you should feed at least 3 animal proteins at a time, which provides a more well-rounded nutritional profile. For example, something like pork loin, lean ground beef, and turkey thigh would be a great trio, but you can mix and match however you'd like. This was what I started guts on, but I always switched things up when I could. I also suggest adding muscular organs like heart, lungs, or green tripe in the meal as well. Number 2, a raw meaty bone. Raw meaty bones are raw, bone-in animal parts that have flesh surrounding it, and should be about 8 to 12% of the diet, depending on the species that you're feeding. These are parts like poultry necks and wings, rabbit frame, pork tail, and lamb ribs. Of course, they need to be the proper size for your pet, because if the bone is too big to chew, they may risk fracturing a tooth. In my opinion, the best beginner meaty bones are poultry necks because they come in all different sizes. Chicken necks are the perfect size for my cat Tingy, and duck necks are the perfect size for my dog Matsu. Number 3, liver. Liver is known as a secreting organ and is the perfect animal-based multivitamin. It's loaded with vitamin A, many B vitamins, copper, and iron. In general, liver shouldn't go over 5% of the diet, but if you're feeding a ruminant animal liver from beef, bison, sheep, or goat, it should be brought down to 3% because of how much copper it provides. Liver has a very strong scent and flavor, which can be off-putting to some pets, so freezing it into a cube or lightly searing it may help them learn to like it. Number 4, at least one other secreting organ. Secreting organs are all throughout a prey animal's body. These are parts like the brain, spleen, kidney, and pancreas. In general, secreting organs should make up 8 to 12% of the meal, and it's always beneficial if you can feed 2 of these organ meats, but it's fine if you can only feed 1. Kidney and spleen are one of my favorite duos because kidney is super high in B vitamins, while spleen easily meets the iron requirement, which is especially important for growing puppies, cats, and ferrets who have a higher requirement for it. I fed spleen to my ferret Choji often when he was growing. Now, this is where many owners stop, but this is still far from being balanced. While bones, muscle meats, and organ meats do meet many nutrient requirements, there are still some that are low. Nutrients like zinc, iodine, omega-3s, vitamin D, vitamin E, and manganese are common nutrients missing in homemade meals, but they're still very important. This is where many seafood items come to the rescue. Remember to add these foods to your checklist. Number 5, seafood. When I say seafood, I'm mainly talking about oily fish, blue mussels, and oysters. Oily fish are high in omega-3s like EPA and DHA, and oftentimes high in vitamin D as well. The best oily fish to feed are fish like salmon, mackerel, smelt, and sardines. My staples are salmon and mackerel because of their high vitamin D content. If you can't feed them raw, you can easily find at least one of these fish in the canned seafood section. Just make sure they're canned in water and not salted. Mussels, especially blue or black mussels, are super concentrated in manganese. When I first started raw feeding Matsu, I was so confused on where to find them. Little did I know, I could easily find them at Walmart, and already steamed and removed from the shell too. As a rule of thumb, shellfish should be steamed or boiled first so they no longer have the risk of passing toxoplasmosis to your pet. And then there's oysters, and the smallest amount of them can easily meet your pet's zinc requirement. Just like the canned fish, they can easily be found in the canned seafood aisle. Again, make sure they're only canned in water. Number 6, kelp. Now, this is something that you may end up needing to buy online. Kelp is a seaweed that's chock full of iodine. This is a trace mineral that can be found in fish, but the diet still needs a boost of iodine through kelp. There are many brands of kelp out there, but I suggest going through a company that does third-party testing and states the iodine content clearly, because many brands can be vague. I suggest the Now brand. Number 7, wheat germ oil. There is one nutrient that's difficult to provide through animal-based foods unless you're feeding a whole prey animal, and that's vitamin E. This nutrient is abundant in plant-based foods like wheatgrass powder and wheat germ oil, and only needs to be provided in very small amounts to meet the vitamin E requirement. Number 8, my free cheat sheet. I only scratched the surface on how you build a raw meal, so you probably have a lot more questions. If you need a guide that goes more in depth and something you can easily reference, my cheat sheet is here for you. If you can't feed the foods I suggested, I even list a few alternatives that provide these common missing nutrients as well. Head over to pawsofprey.com to get your cat, dog, or ferret cheat sheet so you can start building your pet's balanced raw meals.